right, so Yuri, why is it the best Fast and Furious movie that has ever been made?
Okay, so the first Fast and Furious movie was good, but it's just a ripoff of Point Break. So the second one is kind of its own thing before they went full superhero movie. And the friendship is between Brian and Roman Pearce. I don't really like the relationship between Dom and Brian because it's kind of like too tense. But with Roman Pearce and Brian, they're just like friends the whole time. And it's just like a dumb friendship movie almost.
First, the plot doesn't even start with the movie. It starts with a prologue, which is called the
Turbocharged Prelude.
Yeah, Turbocharged Prelude, which is an odd title.
And there's no Honda Preludes in it.
Nope, not at all. But basically, this prologue just has Brian escaping the cops at the end of the first film, and he's racing his way across the country from California to Miami, because if you're trying to lay low, you should definitely be street racing. But he's in a Dodge Stealth, which is kind of made to look like a Mitsubishi GTO, but it's actually a Dodge, which is basically the same thing. And then he's going across the country. The cops check out his car. I guess they suspect who he is, and so he ditches that and then goes to some shady used car lot in Texas where they've just got the only Skyline in the country just sitting there. And I enjoy that shot on the used car lot because you can clearly see that it's not a GTR. It's a narrow body car. It's probably like a GTT or something. And then he takes it to a garage, and then it comes out and it's suddenly a GTR.
Talon, you said that it wasn't a requirement that I see the Prelude before this, and now I'm extremely disappointed that I did not watch the Prelude because I'm like, this sounds amazing.
Oh, it's good. It's super cheese, and it's only low res, even on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I have to watch it.
It was shot on TV camera. But yeah, I mean that's the entire Prelude as it is. He just gets the Skyline and he goes to Miami, and then that's it.
But he does get picked up in a Mitsubishi Eclipse Spider, which ties into the sponsorship of the Mitsubishi stuff into Fast and Furious.
That's true.
Is it which generation is it, the new Eclipse?
It's the one from the movie.
Yeah, the worst one.
Back when that car, the third gen came out, the 2090 was it 2000 was the first year.
It was like
Mitsubishi. Was it 2001?
I think so.
The Mitsubishi had this deal where you could do zero down payment, zero payments, and zero, I think it was 0% interest for a year. I knew this guy.
Free car.
I knew this guy who he went and got a new Eclipse when they first came out. And then he saved up the cost of the car over a year. And when his first payment was due, he paid off the whole car. And I was like, I think I was like 19 at the time. And I was like, that's brilliant. I was like, the Eclipse is an awesome car.
Financial genius.
I am absolutely going to buy one of those. And I think my dad talked me out of it, but I'm at the time I was like, oh, those cars are awesome. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, oh my God,
yeah,
they're awful.
It was literally like a Sebring with an Eclipse body kit on it.
Yeah, they were terrible.
So, but into the actual film, this got maybe the greatest opening title crawl of all time, because the first thing you see is the Universal logo turning into a chrome rim that is bouncing on hydraulics with crunk beats playing.
Yeah, and then all the lasers for the Too Fast, Too Furious intro is so good.
That one comes a little bit later.
Or does it start with the blocking off the roads and stuff?
Yeah, I think they block off the road first, and then the neon comes in.
The weirdest thing about
But
that was there's so many women helping block off roads. I'm like, I doubt you could get that many chicks to like help set up a street race.
Yeah, in my street racing days, we didn't have many scantily clad women who were helping us block off the streets of Colorado Springs to do some crazy street.
Well, you got to go to Miami.
I guess I missed out on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I still remember like seeing that Universal logo bouncing as a kid. I thought that was the coolest thing in the entire world.
But it was cool.
Definitely. But yeah, it opens up with this street race because you got to do that. And one of the things I love about this opening scene is that one of the racers is like arguing with his girlfriend about having to make rent, and then like 2 minutes later he throws down $35,000 on a street race.
Well, think about how much more rent he could make back in the future.
He lost.
I think that was Slapjack.
Yeah.
Was his name?
In the
guy
Supra?
with the brown Supra.
Yeah, gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, he must be renting a palace or something. And then I have a little bit of trivia about the cars in the first race too, because all of those cars, except for the Skyline, were actually repainted cars that they had used for the first film. So like Suki's S2000 was Johnny Tran's car, and then the Supra was one of the stunt Supras they used in the first one, and then the RX-7 was also one of Dom's stunt cars. And so in this race, it's not the most exciting race. It's kind of a retread of the first movie, except in this one, they do add one turn, so it has that going for it. And also at the end, they have a drawbridge to jump. And all of the other cars get smashed up going over this drawbridge, but the Skyline magically is undamaged. And I actually did see one of the Skylines on Craigslist they claimed was the jump car, or like one of the jump cars, and it was basically just a cage and an engine, but it did look like it was in one piece. I don't know if you look closer at it. So Brian wins this race, gets all of this money, and then Suki gets second, smashes up her S2000. Also, the funny thing about Suki in this scene is that she doesn't seem at all concerned about ruining her car or losing all of that money. I guess
when
she's
she
just
like
in it
bumps
for the fun.
into the guy with the RX-7, like she just like, it's like demolition derby. I was like, what?
Yeah, but like you're racing for $35,000. Like you can't hold back.
Yeah, but she also lost.
But that race was pretty cool because they all had like that. They had a lot of cool camera shots, like going from every single driver all the way back through the windows was cool. They all had dyed propane flames coming out. That was all real, so that was cool. I mean, like all the burnouts off the start were cheese, but like that's fun. And there was that one cool camera shot where it went from everybody's car or to every driver to through their windshields, which was like half 3D, but it was still pretty sick. And then you know how there's those really, really bad 3D shots, the CG shots. So in the director's commentary, the guy was like, yeah, we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of CG in there, just like a little quick filler stuff. No one's going to be able to notice. Like the director straight up thought no one would notice. So that's like, if I'm sure if he knew, he would have spent an extra day shooting that stuff. Or at least that's what I like.
I think when they went over the bridge, the drawbridge, I was thinking to myself, like, if this is the last Fast and the Furious movie that you watch, this is kind of insane. Like going over a drawbridge during a race.
Yeah,
but
I
then
mean,
if
it definitely one-ups the
it's
last
like,
one.
It's like
Yeah.
going out of planes and like, towing giant safes around like Rio de Janeiro.
And that's why this one, it's like the last, besides I guess Tokyo Drift as well, it's like the last non like super action movie one. Even though like number 4 was like borderline.
Yeah, I think 4 was the like transitionary.
Yeah, they were getting out of trouble, but there was like no real street racing.
So Brian wins this race and immediately gets clocked by the FBI, who shoot his car with this dumb electric gun that stops his engine and brakes from working. But we'll get into that gadget in a little bit because it comes up again.
Wait, can we go back for 1 second though?
Sure.
I feel like we really missed out on an important point, which was Ludacris's pickup line, where he's like, "When you gonna pop my clutch?"
No, he does too. He also says, "Can I work on your front end?"
Yeah, that was pretty good too.
Hey, make sure you bring that body by the garage later, all right? So we can work on that front end of yours.
Warning: high voltage. For your own safety, do not attempt to repair or remove wires. Do not attempt to open heater unit. If you need assistance, please notify the theater box office or concession manager.
Honestly, I feel like if Paul Walker still had the frosted tips, which is the source of his power, he would have gotten away. The FBI would not have got him. And then I like that shot when Brian gets arrested. It's kind of dumb, where the camera just like zooms straight into his eyeball.
There are so many eye zooms in this movie. It's I love how much they zoom in on eyes. Like that first race, even like I don't want to like linger too much on it, but it's like they're going faster. Zoom in on the eyes. Zoom in on the eyes. Shift. Zoom in on the eyes. Nos, and then zoom in on the eyes.
There are a couple like honestly like really good like editing like photography direction choices in this, but there are some that are like oof.
But that's half the fun, is like, oh wow, yeah. I would never expect to see that in any movie. Like this is amazing.
Rewatching it, I have to say, like when he crashed the Skyline, when after being hit with the electromagnetic gun or whatever, and being chased by like the 500 Chevy Caprices, like I was pretty disappointed when he didn't like try to escape. Like he just kind of like sat there in his car and they came over and arrested him. And I was like Brian O'Connor from the first Fast and the Furious definitely would have tried to at least like run a few blocks.
Yeah. Maybe he knew something was
must
up.
Have been the missing frosted tips.
Yeah. Frosted tips Brian, he would have been out of there. So yeah, feds take him in, basically say, you catch this drug smuggler Carter Verone for us, we're gonna clear your record. You're gonna be, right as rain. And then Brian is like, hey, gotta take my buddy with me. And so Brian, he goes to Barstow to reconnect with his high school buddy Roman, and I can totally buy these two characters as like hooligan high school friends, because every time they're on screen together they are acting like stupid teenagers, and that's like that's why this movie is so
that's
enjoyable.
Why it's better than Dom and Brian. Like their fight scene was like the funniest. It's like, you still fight like shit. You still fight like shit, and then like everyone needs to like throw in a last shot or something like that. It's like
exactly.
And even that one had that thing. It's like whatever happens happens, and they zoom in on the eyes, and then it's a punch. Like it's just so funny.
But he's like, just let it happen.
And do you guys know how far Barstow is from Miami?
It's pretty
It's
far.
in California.
So did they get a private jet or did they drive? Because if they had like a street race coming up
on Con Air
where they had to get it done quickly, like that, you know what I mean? Like that's a long time.
It's the FBI. They can get a plane. It's fine.
Remember when the FBI tries to give him a partner?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm looking for a new engine for my Mitsubishi Evolution. He's like, can a Gallo 12 or a Gallo 24?
The Gallo, from the pizza thing.
Like, Gallo 24. He's like, I didn't realize pizza places made engines.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I did not understand what the hell he was talking about. I thought that was a real engine.
And if you guys watch back, when he's escaping the cops, he evades that guy, and that guy crashes right at the very beginning. He's like, damn it, I suck. So they're foreshadowing that partner wouldn't be a good partner anyways.
I definitely missed that.
That's good screenwriting. So yeah, he gets together with Roman. Another thing I found out is that basically they had written I think an entire script with Brian and Dominic, and so they didn't know if he was going to sign on at this point, and he of course said no. So they basically slotted Roman into the Dominic part, which I can't imagine how different this movie would have been with Vin Diesel. It would have been like a completely different
Yuri
movie.
would have hated it.
Yeah, I mean, if the cars were still all right, it might have, been good, but yeah, this is way better.
Well, didn't they also consider? I read that they considered 50 Cent for the role of Roman, and then also Ja Rule was supposed to reprise his role, but he thought he was like too big for a side role or something.
Yeah,
which
I
I'm
saw
like,
that too.
in retrospect, that's pretty funny because I think that's right before 50 Cent like destroyed Ja Rule's career, and then nobody ever heard from Ja Rule again. So
Yep. I bet he'd wish he'd said yes to that and no to Firefest. The feds outfit them with a mustard yellow Evo and a purple 3rd Gen Eclipse, which personally I feel like they are probably the ugliest cars in the entire series.
I mean, that like as a teenager, that scene was cool because like I didn't really know what was up. All I knew was like cool paint jobs, and they've got like huge wings. They look cool, and then like the second they leave the warehouse, they do a drive-by with a helicopter going down the middle. I'm like, how could I like not be stoked on that?
Yeah, I mean the Evo
I did like
cool, but
Brian's
they really
line about the
ruined that
chrome. Like he's like, too much chrome for me on the Eclipse, and those wheels are really bad. They're like, I think those are like Sears special wheels from like the early 2000s. They're bad. They're really bad.
The IMDb trivia also said that Tyrese bought those wheels himself and put them on the car.
Well, you heard what happened with the Eclipse, right? How he didn't like it was painted yellow, or like we had a yellow interior and some weird stuff, and he's like, I'm not driving like a yellow clown car. And he found an Eclipse in a car magazine and told them to just copy that paint job exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, white interior is way better than yellow. So then we've got undercover agent Monica, who shows up a little bit in the beginning spying on Brian. She's kind of sort of set up as a love interest for Brian, but not really, because they literally kiss for 1/2 of a second, and it feels like it was an accident, like they were just both leaning forward and happened to touch mouths. You know what I'm saying? Like it comes out of nowhere and leads to nothing.
But that's kind of refreshing in like in a movie, anyways, because usually there's like a huge love interest story. In like this movie, it's like he's just getting in trouble because he's got the hots for some chick, and he gets like one peck, and that's it.
Yeah, the all the chemistry on screen is between Brian and Roman.
Yeah, but that did get us that cool shot where he didn't have that did give us that cool shot where he didn't have to keep his eyes on the road.
That's true.
And that's like a solid meme. I was gonna say this movie created so many memes that like you can't hate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So trivia about the Evo 8 as well was that it was not an Evo 8 because the 8 was available in the US, but it wasn't going to be available in the US until a year after they shot. So they actually got an Evo 7 out of Europe, so it was left-hand drive, and then they outfitted it to look like an Evo 8. And then a lot of the double cars used in the film as well were just regular Lancers that they slapped the body kit on.
Gotta save money.
Verone has a bunch of goons auditioning for him by racing to retrieve his cigar across town. Brian and Roman win, of course. There's also a great scene transition in this point where the two are like sprinting down the parking lot, and then it cuts to them speeding down the highway. I really thought that was well done.
So that is like probably one of my favorite car chase scenes of like ever, because you've got so many cool cars, and they're all cool teams. Like you got the Corvette, the Viper, the M3, the Saline Mustang, and then the two Mitsubishis, like whatever, I think they're cool, and then the two muscle cars, which was like fully sponsored by Year One. Like I get it. I actually thought like Year One was cool after seeing that. I'm like, I don't mind that at all. But like, so they're weaving in and out of traffic, which is like all looks very practical, and then the Mustang gets crushed, which was like the trailer footage, and like if you're a Mustang guy, like you would love seeing that, right?
I was very sad. I also read that the Corvette crashing into the Saline was actually not intentional. Like that happened on like as an accidental while they were filming one of the stunts. That's pretty crazy.
That Mustang getting crushed is like one of the most surprisingly brutal things that happens in this movie, because like I don't think anybody dies in this movie except that guy. I'm almost certain is dead.
But
there's no way he survived.
But if you watch that back, he's just driving straight and then drives into a truck. Like, he could have made it, but I'm like, all right, what made this guy screw up so bad? Like, he just turned.
Yeah,
Well,
typical Mustang driver.
It's in your DNA. If you buy a Mustang, they actually inject a microchip into your bloodstream that just makes you more often than not drive like a total idiot.
Oh yeah.
And if you're a Mustang owner watching this, I own 2 Mustangs, so you can't hit me too hard.
And then that race also gave us, the spinning middle finger to your buddy while driving. And then Brian one-ups him with the e-brake 180, driving backwards, giving the middle finger back, leading into like the gnarliest J-turn to make his off-ramp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my favorite thing I noticed about that J-turn shot as well, which I never would have noticed as a kid, is that when he does that J-turn, there's a camera mounted on the Eclipse, and you can clearly see that it's sitting on a trailer, and that Tyrese is a rubber dummy.
Did you read about the Viper too? About how it was like a prototype, so they couldn't do much with it because the SRT had just come out at that point.
Yeah,
so it was like a one-off.
That was like one of 4 pre-production cars that they had at that point because it came out a year later. And then the Celine used in the chase too was actually just like a V6 Mustang. They slapped a body kit on it,
kit. Yeah.
They even used that dummy shot of Tyrese like twice in that chase, which is great.
At least they're committed to it.
Oh yeah. And then once they actually get into the shipping yard, we've got this great moment where Tyrese takes his shirt off, which I feel like he like put it in his contract that he had to show off his abs at least once.
They actually did in the bonus footage. He said the director's like, Tyrese has been working really hard to work out, and he wanted to have a scene where he could take his shirt off, and like that was written just because he'd been working out. And you missed one of the best scenes was the Eclipse driving through the gate. And or the Evo driving through the gate and taking zero damage after taking full damage.
Oh yeah, but yeah, if my abs look like that, I would want that shot as well, honestly. So yeah,
if you don't know that he's about to break the window, like if you haven't seen the movie in a while, it just seems so ridiculous that he's like you're like, oh, this is definitely put in for like the female audience, or and you're like,
yeah, the 1%.
And then he punches
audience.
the thing, and you're like, oh, okay, that made sense.
Yeah, and then he punches through the window to reveal that it was already unlocked, which I love.
That was pretty. I
love the timing on that. And then so they return Verone his cigar, and then after they do that, we get the first "We Hungry" of the film. And then the second one a few minutes later.
Got something to eat up in there? We hungry.
And they don't even eat the empanadas.
Yeah, there's 2 We Hungries after that, and then a third one at the end, I believe.
Like I said, we hungry.
The line of the film, in my opinion. You can't top it.
But it's so funny that he tries to steal the lighter. Like, why? Like it's just such a good character
$10?
thing. Yeah, like, why are you even doing that? But it's so funny.
Yeah.
You know what's another thing I counted was the number of times that Brian says "cuh."
There's
if
you YouTube
3 times
if you YouTube Too Fast Too Furious in 60 seconds, it's just a compilation of them going bruh and cuz.
Watch your hands, bruh. Come on, cuz.
Watch this, bro. Yeah, bro. Just do what you can do, bro. Hey, bro, check it out. So forget about it, cuz.
I'ma tell you, bruh. Come on, bro. All right, let's do this, bro.
Oh, I also forgot to mention during the highway chase, the 2 Mitsubishis are being tracked by the feds, who assume they are trying to escape because they are too stupid to figure that this job that they are going undercover as street racers would involve street racing.
But to be fair, I was watching it back and I'm like, there was one point where she agreed she was going to fill them in before anything happened. So I guess what they thought was she never filled us in. They're running. The feds didn't realize that she didn't have time to fill them in.
It's possible. So yeah, after learning that they're being tracked, they decide they need some cars with no electronics. So they go back to the Boomer goons in the highway chase, and they
Fonzie.
yeah.
But
Fonzie.
there's one thing before that is when they roll into Tez's shop, you get like the best picture of the whole scene of like the ugliest cars at the time, just like really ugly Cavaliers and stuff, and that MRS and everything. Like if you just pause the film and look at the cars, it's like it's gonna be like the next Radwood is gonna be like Fastwood, and it's just gonna be like too fast stuff.
There's also a Hyundai Tiburon in that shot.
Yeah, the Tiburon.
My favorite vehicle, though, in that whole shot of Tej's garage, which I'm gonna make myself seem like even more of a Ford fanboy, is the yellow F-150 Boss, which is like it was a special edition F-150 that kind of looks like a Ford Lightning, but it was more of an appearance package. Like I think it was a 5.4 liter V8. And it's just like a yellow truck with a black like Ram Air hood. I used to work with a guy who had one back in the day. They're pretty cool looking if you like that generation F-150, but I was pretty surprised they just had it sitting there in the...
So yeah, they bet pink slips against these boomer goons in the Camaro and the Challenger. The quarter-mile stretch of road goes on forever, and Pearce appears to be money shifting from fifth to second, but the Mitsubishis are able to keep up with the muscle cars through trickery and plot convenience, because you can definitely buy... that these cars are able to keep up with a Hemi Challenger and a 427 Camaro in a straight line. But they win, of course, because they're the stars. So I do like at the very end of this when the Evo hits 6th gear and then it starts going faster than it was before. That's how you win.
But that race starts off with the Eclipse Spider, and it's got the Boxer engine dubbed over. Did you guys notice that? And the muscle car, like there's just obviously a guy shaking the Challenger behind it.
Well, that effect, I mean, it was probably cheap, but it looked great at the time.
Well, I bought that as a kid.
I still think it was great.
When I was in high school, I'm like, well, I need a muscle car, and that's why I bought a third gen Camaro as my first car instead of like a tuner car. Just because those guys, I'm like, those cars are faster. The tuner cars can't even keep up unless they cheat. I got to get a muscle car. But
I mean, Hemi Challenger would have been faster, I think, in a straight line.
Okay, but that downshift that you were saying, I mean, if he's full brakes, from fifth, like it kind of could make sense. But did you notice that heel toe downshift? Like he put his heel on the brake and his toe on the gas, and that's not how you're supposed to heel toe downshift.
I don't think it was even heel toe. I think it was all brake. I don't think there was any gas going on. That thing stalled.
Also, I like before the race when the two Fonzie guys are like, we heard you boys want to get rid of those Cracker Jack toys.
From the bottom
Why
of
do
the
they even
cereal
want
box.
those cars?
And then doesn't Roman say something like, I run these streets.
Yeah.
Or, you ain't
When he
ready?
hits the NOS, I think. The horn button, which is actually NOS.
It's his first week in Miami, and he runs the streets.
And so I do love that shot where the Challenger shakes when he revs it. And even more than that, I love Roman's face when he sees that. It's like the life immediately comes out of him.
But then doesn't he like turn? He like turns and like looks at Brian, and it's like he was faking that look of fear. Like he's like he looks at him and he's like the secret plan with the nitrous on the way back is somehow like.
But he caught up before that sign hit the car. Like he was gonna catch that Challenger with that nitrous.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it must have been like a 300 shot or something.
It was 1,000 shot.
1,000 shot of nitrous in a third gen Eclipse.
Oh yeah. So, a whole bunch of not too interesting stuff happens after this. There's like a club where there's a detective guy they're like torturing.
Club Pearl.
Yeah, I'm going to skip over that. Doesn't matter. The climax culminates with our boys having to transport millions of dirty dollars to Verone as he flees the country. Along the way, they also have to escape Miami PD and ditch Verone's henchmen who plan on whacking them after the job is done. So the chase begins on the highway. And I noticed that as soon as the Eclipse and the Evo come out, some of these chase cam shots look like they were shot on way cheaper and older film than the rest of the movie, which is odd. there's shots that look like they're like crappy like 70s grindhouse shots. Almost.
Were they the ones on the helicopter?
It may have been helicopter. I also think there were chase car shots.
Okay, yeah, because they might have used smaller cameras with like different film to get into like tight spots. Because I know in the bonus footage, there's the guy directing it was hanging off like a sidecar, filming cool stuff. So some of those shots might have been like that, which those shots did look kind of cool.
Yeah, but I mean, you could clean those up digitally nowadays.
My favorite part about the when they're in the trailer park is when the cops, like, they hear the sirens, and it's going on for like
minutes.
It's got to be like 20 seconds, and then Brian turns and he's like, "Cops."
Yeah,
I'm like, obviously,
like only he would know because he's a cop.
Like, aren't you?
He knows their language. He can translate the sirens.
And then even when he like sent the Durango or whatever it was at the cars, then Tyrese was still just like having fun. It's like, oh man, we're like the most crazy part. He's like, ha, got him.
Yeah, I love that dance he does after doing that, where he's like pulling his shirt. So the Evo gets tagged with this magic claw gun that we saw at the beginning as well, which the director described that as an EMP, even though it doesn't work how an EMP would work. I mean, within real world logic, the only thing that would make sense to me is if it was like, interfering with the systems by hitting the body, which is grounded, but also unless it's also trying to hit the positive terminal somehow, I don't think that would do anything at all.
Yeah, but movie storylines.
Absolutely. But I actually saw there was a guy trying to design something similar to this about 10 years ago, which I saw a YouTube video of it, which I'll put in here probably, where, yeah, it was basically that, but also it was like a massive cannon that they couldn't fit on anything really. And if you're, basically it would just send an EMP wave, and then, but yeah, if you hit a car with that, it's going to fry like everything all at once. That thing is not going to drive anywhere.
And that was the one where he's like hanging out the car, trying to pull it off with just a cloth to shield him from the electricity. And he's still got his foot his barely on there.
Yeah,
and the guy's like,
his foot is like...
The guy's like, I can't drive. It's like, you're just holding your steering wheel straight.
Yeah, like I did that when I was like 8 years old. You can do it, man.
Yeah.
And the helicopter thing was pretty crazy. Like when Brian pulls the electro thing out of the Evo, and then he throws it at the cop car, and it like hits the grill, and the cop car like
it triggers
like,
the e-brakes in cars. That's what it does in a Caprice.
And then that car like causes a pileup.
But like the amount of cop cars they ruined there was like comically funny. Like the director must have been like, let's just add like 20 more.
We need to destroy as many Caprices in this movie as possible. They probably had some sort of contract with Chevy or something.
Well, I mean, those were all old cars at that point, but I saw in one of the Lieberman videos, he was like, yeah, we just went down to like the police auction. They just went down to the police auction. They had a bunch of Caprices they were getting rid of, and the crew was just like, yeah, just give us all of them. So yeah, the boys lose the cops and the feds by switching to the muscle cars in the middle of a massive scramble diversion, and Tej and Suki get into their original cars and immediately get arrested. And all I can think watching that is that I hope they have good lawyers. Because we don't see what happens to them at all. I mean, Tej shows up later.
Well,
beyond that,
the detective does say, "I let your decoy friends off. I took care of your decoy friends." Yeah, so maybe. It was fine. But when her legs came out of that car, I was like, oh, it wasn't them. But that whole scene, if you pause it at any point, you just see so many awesome cars everywhere scattered throughout there. And then like we were talking about before we started rolling, those two awesome PT Cruisers. Did you guys notice anything that like you really liked from that scramble?
Well, I love that they have like 8 like Dodge Rams that just like that they just run into police cars. Like,
oh yeah,
like if like especially like post 9/11, it's like if anything like that happened, then the helicopter would have been there like firing like rocket propelled grenades at the drivers. Like, I was like,
so Tej is calling in a favor to a bunch of people in Miami. It's like, all right, you don't know any of these people, but I need you to assault these police officers with your brand new trucks. And I need them to
and
all
then
match.
and then get in a high speed chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I saw the behind the scenes on that scramble, which most of the cars, they had dozens of them, but most of them were just like fans and enthusiasts who they just brought their own cars. And then they basically had like 5 or 6 stunt drivers and lead cars, and they just instructed all of them to like follow that car. And they managed to
not
pull
crash.
that off. Yeah, exactly.
It was cool though, that like, and everyone's cars were so different. They were obviously not just like made by an art department, which was pretty cool. And then did you notice there's that one yellow Civic that they got to do like 3 e-brake drifts on the way out?
Oh yeah, I did see that. That
that
had to
guy.
be a stunt driver.
Yeah. They're like, or maybe it was just like some random like background guy who's just like, I'm just gonna just rip drifts, and they're like, fuck it, just film.
He's like, I'm gonna send it.
It's like there's like nothing worse than like when an extra tries like extra hard to do something, and you're like, oh god, we enabled him.
Roman loses his henchman in the Challenger. He's in the Challenger. Loses him with an improvised ejector seat. They rigged some nitrous canisters too.
It's pronounced
Ejectocito,
cuz.
Ejectocito, cuz.
But that part was funny when he's like, oh, you're supposed to be a stone cold killer, and you were grabbing onto your seatbelt and everything. Like he was ragging on the guy too, and then finally hit him. That's why he was like the best character and way better than Dominic Toretto.
Mm-hmm. So Brian's ejectocito fails to go off, but then Roman saves his ass later. And then the two apprehend Verone by getting in the Camaro and jumping it off of a dock and onto the yacht.
Oh, you know that scene? You know where they go? Tarpon Point Marina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually in Fort Myers, which is like 3.5 hours from Miami on the other side of Florida.
Seriously?
I was like,
It was a
they
road
used
trip.
a real name of a place that's not anywhere near Miami. That's pretty impressive.
They arrest Verone. It's implied that he would show up later to be a bigger villain, and then he never does.
Maybe in Fast 9.
Yeah, he'll be a cyborg.
Well, they brought back
Cyber Verone.
what's the detective's name? Brian's love
Monica.
interest in the movie. Yeah, they brought her back. I think for
2 minutes.
they're like, yo, man, I can't remember any of the names right now. What's Toretto's girlfriend's name? She's like, oh,
Letty.
she's alive. Letty, yeah, it's like
Letty.
Letty's alive, or it's like something like
fan
that.
You are.
Oh, yeah. Eva Mendes at the end of Fast 5, maybe?
Yeah.
After the credits, she was like, "Let us alive."
And then, but you guys just glazed over the whole like Camaro jumping into a yacht perfectly.
That was very...
It's a good shot.
What's that movie with Ben Stiller and...
Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, that was like straight out of Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, I was thinking more like Dukes
It
of
was
Hazzard.
so bad.
Yeah, but at least like they acted injured when like they landed. It was like Brian looked like he hit his head on the thing and everything.
Yeah.
And then he gets the gun out and shoots her. But in the bonus footage, they showed like the rig they made because they're just like in a green screen or whatever, and then they built one into like a yacht. They have like a stunt Paul Walker doll sitting in the front thing, and they have like a good close up of it. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll dig it up, but it is like so funny, and I couldn't find it like a screenshot of it visible in the movie, but it's like it's a really good Paul Walker dummy.
At least they put their money into those
Where do you rank that on your list of Paul Walker dummies?
Top 10 for sure. Well, okay, what's that movie that was on Netflix with it was sponsored by Alfa Romeo, and there were 6 Underground or something, or 9 Underground or something like that.
Yeah.
6 Under. I never saw it with Ryan Reynolds.
If you do a movie of that, there's a scene where man, I can't remember who's the guy driving the Alfa Romeo. There's like
Dave Franco.
Yeah, right before he crashes and dies, if you freeze frame there, it's just a straight up dummy, like a very visible
I'm
doll.
not going to kill the real Dave Franco.
I mean, they could have done like a little face swap, but it was probably funnier. They're like, if someone pauses it, you'll see that. It's like, yeah, leave it in. Easter eggs.
Yeah. So then we get to the big conclusion of the movie, in which Brian and Monica say goodbye with a limp handshake and just kind of walk away. That's like
it's a good
most
follow
of my
up to
dates have ended.
their accidental kiss earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
But that's like the only Fast and Furious with like a really shitty love interest. Like there's like zero love. Like he kind of wants to bang her a little bit, and that's about it. Which is good because like I just want to see tuner cars do dumb shit. Like I don't care about the love interest stuff, which I think made it so much better.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then Brian's real interest, Roman, they both walk into the sunset, sneaking some of the cash that they were supposed to turn over to the FBI.
My pockets ain't empty, cuz.
Not hungry no more. And the way they walk off with pump it up, like on the other side of the camera, like it's so good. Like just cheesy film wise. Like I love every little bit of that. Like if I had to make my own movie that was like a car buddy movie, there would be a lot of stuff stolen directly from that.
Favorite moments, favorite scenes in the movie. I'll go with this first. Favorite moments, of course, the scramble. It's extremely well done. Anytime Roman and Brian are trying to one-up each other, especially near the beginning, they're doing the J-turns, they're doing the stare-off while driving. I love those moments when they're acting like stupid teenagers. Whenever Tyrese says, "We hungry," iconic. I don't know why they didn't bring that back in every single film.
Because he's already got the money. He's not hungry anymore, right?
I guess. Little aside here. I kind of hate how they just made Tyrese a clown in every other movie. Like,
yes.
All he ever does is just bumbles his way across the screen. And in this one, he like actually has things to do, and he's actually like his own character. He's like a wild card, but he's not an idiot. And in the other ones, he's just like a massive fool. It's like, why is he?
I don't know. I love in Fast 6 that like his reaction to the tank is like one of my favorite things in the series. Like every time he like talks in 5 and 6, I just crack up. I mean, I get what you mean. Like they've made him more of a gimmicky character, but I think he's pretty natural. Like he just says the most ridiculous stuff, and it's usually pretty fun.
Because it's like his character is,
like it fits really well, and it fits really well in the movie.
His character is street smart, and then like when you're trying to like take down international like bad guys, like being street smart doesn't like help.
But then other question: if street smarts don't translate to, taking down massive agencies or whatever, then how does Tej being a decent mechanic translate to him being a master hacker?
Maybe he was always both, and we just didn't realize.
Yeah, maybe he went to computer school after he got arrested.
If street smarts don't translate into like taking down, whatever, then the entire franchise you could just stop after Fast and the Furious 1.
Oh yeah,
but those guys those guys were superheroes in the making. But okay, here's my theory on another Too Fast, Too Furious kind of movie with street racing. Like, just because people are saving the world doesn't mean people still aren't street racing in Miami. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't they have a spin-off where, like, it ends like the last Fast and Furious movie, like a giant explosion ends, and then it zooms out to, like, two guys in a diner watching it on TV and be like, oh, cool, you want a street race? It's like, yeah. And then we can, like, reboot the whole series with street racing.
Yeah.
Or don't they go back to Race Wars in, like, Fast 6 at some point? And it's
the 7th
like,
one, I think.
It's like, oh yeah, like we're in the middle of this like massive global like spy mission, but hang on, we got to hit up Street Wars. We got to find Hector.
Isn't it Race Wars?
Yeah. Race Wars, that's right.
Best name ever.
If grounded people doing regular races still exist in this universe, then what the hell happened to Paul and Vin Diesel in order for them to be able to do Dragon Ball Z type moves in their cars? Did they accidentally drive a radioactive car?
I don't know. You just have to accept that some people are gifted and, their skills develop better than everyone else. He's like the Lewis Hamilton of street racing. He's just the best.
I don't know if even Lewis Hamilton can do that stuff.
Because Lewis Hamilton wasn't a cop before. Brian was.
Because he hasn't been.
What if Lewis Hamilton had frosted tips?
He might have.
So, one thing we kind of touched on this briefly earlier, and is when they do that first race, I think you said that there's like one turn. I think maybe there's more than one turn, but there's like turning. It's not just like a quarter mile race, right? Like it gets away from the I live my life a quarter mile at a time thing. And I kind of felt like this time when I rewatched it, I felt like when they had a couple of scenes where they were turning and there was also a little bit of drifting, I felt like it was kind of like a preview of Tokyo Drift, even if they didn't know that they were going to make Tokyo Drift. I don't even know if drifting was like a huge thing in 2002 or 2003. And it just kind of felt like, oh, okay, so like they're doing something different than, just going in a straight line up to like, 3,000 miles an hour based on, the lights outside of the car, which I thought was pretty cool. And then also, like I mentioned, when they go over the drawbridge, I think that was kind of it was like dipping their toe in the water of like being more than just a street racing movie. Like, what kind of crazy stuff, that and the whole like helicopter, like electromagnetic pulse gun. It was kind of like the first like real, okay, this is how we're going to kind of go. And they probably weren't even necessarily thinking about that, because I don't think when they made the second Fast and the Furious, they knew it would go beyond that. Right. Like, but I do think that they, whether willingly or unwillingly, they basically were like, let's, throw some like crazy action movie type stuff in here and see how it fits. And then, they, like I think Yuri mentioned earlier, they don't really try to explain like technical things about like ball bearing turbos or like, the nitrous kits. Although actually going back to the nitrous thing, one of my favorite things is at the end of that first race, when Paul Walker wins, he slaps his nitrous bottle. Like he's like,
good job.
Like he's like petting it like it's a dog or something. That was pretty funny.
But in the director's commentary, he said that he wanted the movie to be like cars, like street racing mixed with video games. So anything that's action movie might just be his interpretation of video gamey. You know what I mean? Which accidentally started superhero stuff. Oh man. Okay. So anytime they use NOS, anytime they zoom in on anything, anytime they zoom in on like eyes or shifters, anything with neon lights, as many shifts as they can, like just random e-brakes, just like all the camera shots, anytime the camera did like a 180, there was so much weird stuff that you don't see anywhere else. I loved all of it. I love every race scene, I think, equally. Well, maybe I like the first two more, and then I like the friendship between Brian and Roman Pearce the most. I think I pretty much like everything from start to finish of that movie. So, but definitely every NOS scene and every shift.
All right, and then to close it off, I would ask, what are your favorite cars? I'll start with mine. I think my favorite car, this is a low-key pick, probably not going to expect it. It's the wide-body E36 that is there for 2 seconds and then smashes into some water barrels. Yeah,
they definitely didn't show it long enough.
Which I actually found a photo online of like the full car, because you can barely see it, but that it is like the dumbest wide-body kit. You got to Google that afterwards.
I'll look that up.
All right, Matt, what was your favorite car?
Okay, so I love Celine Mustangs, but the fact that it was a V6 Mustang with a Celine body kit, which totally makes sense, because you shouldn't destroy a Celine Mustang for a movie, makes me want to say that was my favorite car. But when that generation of Dodge Viper came out, I was obsessed with that car. I still really like the 2003 Viper SRT. Like I have to say the Viper, even though it wasn't in the movie very long. I just love that car. It looks so good.
And Yuri, what's your favorite?
I think it has to be the R34 GTR, because I've driven one that was tuned, and it's like that car is so much fun. But then I also really like the Spider and the Eclipse. No, the Evo and the Spider, because they were just like so over the top and weird. And like having one of those as a daily, like I've got like that Civic that has the lights and the airbrushing, and like would you like go to get groceries and you forgot that that's the car you took, and you drive back to that, you're like, oh my god, this is insane. And it would just be so fun to drive that every single day.
Yeah, I mean, if like, stodgy FBI guys were gonna try and decide what a tuner car would look like at the time, that is probably what it would look like.
The Eclipse, definitely.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Also The Eclipse has a custom license plate on it. The Evo does not. But the
Hater.
Eclipse is like hater, exactly.
And he drops that one after he gets the, what's it called? He gets the cigar thing. He's like, you could put your blouse back on. Hater. It's like such weird lines, but it's also good.
Yeah. All right. So to close it off, I would just, plug all you got. Matt, you got...
Yeah, my YouTube channel is Taco Potato Mustang. It's fairly new. It's mostly me working on a 1988 Mustang GT and making a lot of mistakes along the way. And then also my website is just me writing about traveling and cars and sometimes food. So, yeah.
All right. And then Yuri, what you got? I think you started your own channel.
Yeah, I got Straight Pipes on YouTube. It's got some subscribers already. And then Yuri Tershin on Instagram if you want to see pictures of me posting my Prowler, which you probably don't. And
oh, you have a Prowler?
Yeah, dude. I told you I liked ugly cars. I asked
dude,
Craig.
I love that car.
I asked Craig Lieberman about could you put a Prowler into Too Fast Too Furious? Like I sent him a private message. He's like, I fought tooth and nail to keep that car out. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And then I am right here on this channel where you're watching the video, obviously. And then also I've got a website, MotorFriend.net, which I never update, but occasionally I do write for larger publications, and then I put the link to it on my site. So check that out, I guess. And then Twitter, MotorFriend with an underscore in the middle, and the same on Instagram. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for allowing me to talk about Too Fast and Too Furious for an hour. People don't usually let me go that far. So I've had a fantastic time.
Yeah, no problem.
Same. Yeah, it's good to meet you, Yuri, and Talon.
Yeah, great to meet you.
For the first time, I guess, on video.
Thank you.
Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.